Welcome to another episode of TMC Newsroom. I'm Carl Ford. I'm here with Scott Durchslag from Skype, and Scott is the COO. You actually run the thing, right?
That's part of what I do.
So talk to me about what it's like, particularly Skype in and Skype out, and all those relationships with other carriers in this world, and how you treat them, and your overall mobility strategy. And
sure.
What brings you here to CTIA?
Well, what brings us here to CTIA is we're announcing Skype for iPhone, and Skype will be available on BlackBerry in May. And that is basically a fulfillment of the first part of a three-part strategy we're executing in mobile.
Okay.
So number one is we want to be available on a post-load basis on all the major smartphone OSs.
Okay.
Number two is we want to be available preloaded by the major device manufacturers, so it's super easy and simple for consumers to be able to use us. And three is about operator partnerships. So the first part of it is we announced Android, Java, Windows Mobile at CES, and now we're announcing the remaining ones, so we pretty much have fulfilled that. The second one, we announced a major partnership with Nokia at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And stay tuned, you'll be seeing other ones. As you can imagine, the other manufacturers are quite keen to get us integrated on their device. But the key question I think you're getting at is three, what's happening with operator partnerships? Right. And you know, it's important to understand that is third for a couple of reasons. One is we got a big part of the world outside the United States that is not operator driven. It's direct to retail. So you talk about India and Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, China, Russia, huge markets. Devices are about 1 billion units a year. Almost half of them are sold in those direct to retail markets. So we have a lot to do there. And as we're doing that, we will be working to pick the right operator partners who are committed to delivering value and a rich experience. And so we have discussions now underway really in each of the regions with some major operators who are interested in kind of getting on the front end of what it means to have mobile voice over IP and, you know, in general and Skype in particular. Okay.
Now, in the availability of Skype right now, is it just as the IM client? How does voice work on Skype with your mobile app right now?
So it depends on the OS, right? On iPhone, it works a bit differently than the others because the rules that Apple has on that limit the VoIP communications to Wi-Fi only.
Okay.
So, you know, in the US, that's not a hugely limiting thing, obviously, because there's Wi-Fi, you know, pretty widely available. But we have seen, we're now #1 on every iTunes site around the world, 40 countries, and it's now crossed 1 million downloads in less than 36 hours. So even with that limitation, it's really kind of taken off. In the other applications, it works differently. It tends to work over the voice channels. And so basically, what you as a consumer would pay for is a national call on your calling plan with your carrier. But then you're able to get international Skype rates to call other mobiles or to call other landlines. And it's not just the mobile calling. You can get the chat. You can get your chat history. You know, you can get, you know, a bit of the broader Skype experience. But it's an audio experience first and foremost. We'll be thinking about video a little bit later.
Okay, and so I should, when I think of you, I remember Skype when it first came out was basically a closed network, and then you guys built on partnerships to allow Skype in and Skype out. So on this now we've kind of got, in the wireless world, kind of a Skype meetup is how I'm hearing you say it, basically where you're taking advantage of those gateways to interconnect to the endpoints. Have I got that right? So when I'm calling a distant place, I'm only dialing local? In effect,
yeah.
I'm being met up that way?
Yeah. I mean, depending upon the specifics, if you have we recommend people have unlimited data plans,
right? Because
the presence in the address book and the chat works over, you know, those channels, and depending on how much you do of that, those rates can be high. But beyond that, right? It's basically calling through the gateways, and so it's really about international savings. You can save like 80% over what you would normally, you know, pay your carrier. And so that's the starting point. And then the other point, of course, is the address book with the presence is right there. And you can really be able, with one click, to connect to your friends, your family, your community is all there with you in your pocket. And that's the opportunity.
I was sharing with Chris earlier that whenever I get a Skype call coming out coming out from my Skype out and I see the 00123456, it in effect has a trust associated with me in the fact that I know it's probably come from somebody who had me on IM already. So I have a trust with it. And he's reminded me of the fact that I now can, in effect, adjust Annie to be what I want it to be, so I can actually have my phone number come at me and come at other people as well. So I really like what you guys are doing, enabling end users. The question is, how are you doing with carriers?
At this time, the exhibit hall is now closed for the
Keep
day.
going.
Well, so
Hall reopens.
it'll depend on the carrier, right? What we're finding is there's been a lot that's changed in the last 6 months. So the success of iPhone, what Google's done with Android, carriers I think are understanding that the internet brands can deliver a lot of data minutes and a lot of ARPU. And so I think they're more open to these things being done in a way that is a win-win. What we found with Hutchison in the UK, 3,
Yep.
is we were able to give them a higher margin per subscriber, lower churn, a much lower cost of customer acquisition, and those are the things that matter most to an operator. So while there's some initial fear about what this might mean to long-distance international revenues, that's actually a relatively small profit pool for most operators. The heaviest callers already use calling cards and have other ways of getting out. So they're trading off a little bit of revenue there in return for the huge number of new subscribers we can attract. And that's a trade-off well worth making, and more of them are coming to see that. So, stay tuned. That's about all I can tell you. We'll see what happens over the next year or so. And when we have something to announce, you'll be the first to hear about it.
Great. Scott, thank you so much.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.